All right, YouTube, this Detroit's HPTV coming at you with another video. Now, we did a video this morning on the judge and the First Amendment. Now, ironically, there's another change of events on the political landscape. Do you remember New York Attorney General Letitia James, the one who so adamantly been prosecuting Trump? Seems her name came up today and she has some legal issues of her own. Now, ironically, we see what's happening in Fulton County with Fannie Willis and with the things that she's going through. Now, Letitia James, it seems like everything that they are accusing Trump of or trying to prosecute him over is starting to revisit them. Even the latest revelations dealing with Mayor Adams. You know what I'm saying? It's like these Democrats, the closer we get to election, the more comes out about their shady dealings. It's almost like somebody is pulling the cover off of them because every day is a different revelation. Every day is something different with them. Now it's Letitia James. So I'm going to do a reaction to a video. It just came out. You know what I mean? So this is like breaking news. And you could tell me what you think, but it's almost like what they wishing and hoping for others is coming back to them. It's like a spiritual chastisement, so to speak. So check out this video and tell me what you think. It's for fair use under the 1976 Copyright Act for commentary and educational purposes. Let's look at what's going on in New York now.
Tish James, Letish, she's been busted. Miranda Devine posted an opinion piece saying that there is some evidence about a fraud scandal for old Tish James. Now, she's trying to extract about $500 million from Donald Trump. And one option that she has of collecting that, she says, is to seize Trump's property. Trump is now saying there are whispers and rumors that he might be saying, go ahead and take it. We're fine with that. Go take it and see how you can manage a building. Good luck, Tish. Trump, of course, is appealing this, saying that there is an impossibility of getting a bond because no one will ultimately bond out that much. And there's reaction from Kevin O'Leary and Trump himself. But the story with Tish is that she may be caught in a little bit of a scandal of her own that resembles what she is prosecuting Trump for. Very interesting. So we're going to take a look at this over from the New York Post. And as I mentioned, Miranda Devine did the digging on this. And she published this, says Irish Society, an unpaid loan, and the hypocrisy of Tish. Throughout the entire Trump prosecution, sat on her Tish in court and took her shoes off to stink up the whole building. So Miranda Devine wrote this, and of course, I'd encourage you to follow her on X and everywhere. She's amazing. She wrote this. All right, to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, here's a little bit of a tale of financial shenanigans. It involves American Irish Historical Society and a Trump deranged Tish. There's a grand old building on Fifth Avenue, and we have Irish Historical Society in this building. There's an unpaid loan, there's a family dynasty, there's a theatrical production, and there's James. And so what's going on here? Well, it all began with this guy called James Doyle, right? He's this businessman and he loves Irish and he loves his Irish stuff, right? And he joined the board of this nonprofit, this Irish group. Now they have this gilded mansion there in New York on Fifth Avenue, crown jewel of this historical society association. They've got this building, and this dude, James Doyle, loves Irish and loves this building. Now, over the years, financial mismanagement and misfortune, unfortunately, led to the building facing foreclosure. Couldn't manage the money. Oh no. Sounds like maybe Tish should be involved in this. So in 2017, the board turned to Doyle, okay, the same Georgia businessman who came on, got on the board, loves Ireland, loves his people. So they say, hey, can you help us out? How about we give you a $3 million loan? No, this is Tish language, right? Structured like a private mortgage. And he was told that the Beau Arts townhouse, that this gilded mansion, was worth $80 million because it included valuable air rights above the building. So he's like, all right, I wish we would have managed our funds better, but okay, I guess I'll give you this $3 million loan since it's secured by this building that has a lot of value to it. However, the society only made a few payments, and Doyle soon found things weren't quite as they seemed. What happened here? The society had become dominated for half a century by the Cahill family, and Cahill was accused of treating the townhouse like a private club. Now, Cahill was a tropical disease specialist and said to have treated Pope John Paul II and other things, and he held annual galas and all this other stuff. Now, there's this battle, families fighting this, families fighting, okay. Now, the societal's financial woes and the dysfunction had reached a crisis point, right? Battling back and forth. You see even, who's this TDS actor, the whack job, was there at the Irish event. So he says, the society's financial woes and dysfunctions now reach a crisis point by 2021 when Cahill tried to sell the building for $52 million. Now he died and he's trying to sell the building, and then guess who stepped into the plate? New York Attorney General. She cited a petition to oppose the sale. She said, whoa, any sale of a nonprofit had to be approved by her. So Tish steps in, you can't sell this place. She said, it's an amazing place, Letitia James said. She gushed to the Irish Voice, said, we had to save this building. One day people can come in there and enjoy it again, which was all very well, but Doyle, who loaned them the $3 million, needed to get that money back. He's like, I want this family to sell it so he can be compensated, right, and return his mortgage. Now, the AG appointed an interim board. So Tish comes out and says, all right, well, you guys are having problems. You're trying to sell this. There's going to be an interim board of directors, and they tell Doyle, this guy who, again, who has this outstanding $3 million loan, they say, don't try to collect on your money and don't try to foreclose on the mortgage before July 2023. He says, all right, look, okay, Tish, if you're going to put this board of directors on here, and this is Tish now, okay, Tish is involved in this. This is a building and her transactions and all this thing. So I got a question, what did she promise him, right? AG appointed an interim board, and so that's her board. And what did that board promise to Doyle to persuade him not to collect his money? Sounds like maybe there was some value exchanged here that wasn't codified or documented according to general accounting practices. Now, but by August 2023, Doyle still hasn't been paid. So he initiated foreclosure proceedings. Now, remember, Trump always paid his bills. Like, nobody had to foreclose on his buildings. This never happened before to Trump. So, at least from Tish's perspective, anything she's prosecuted him on. So he initiated foreclosure proceedings. And
now, I don't know if you guys is following this, but I'm following this. And initially, he only gave him $3 million, but somebody inflated the price of the building to $80 million, and he can't get paid. $80 million, he only gave him $3 million, and he still can't get paid. Isn't this what is similar to what she's prosecuting Trump for? Inflating the price of property for loans? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Let's continue to listen.
And guess what? AG Tish, she opposed and blocked it. She claimed the mortgage was invalid. Sorry, you're a board member. You can't have a mortgage. That $3 million that you were owed, John, you don't get that money back. Huh? Mortgage is invalid. That's because you can't now foreclose on this, and now it's our property. So basically, she just stole that dude's $3 million. So on Friday, Doyle, that guy who lost $3 million, thanks to Tish, filed a lawsuit against the society and requested a subpoena be issued against James, requiring her to produce a raft of documents. Yeah, Tish, let's see your generally accepted accounting principles, your GAAP procedures, Tish, including anything related to campaign events that you hosted at the townhouse or any contributions to her political campaigns from the Irish Society or the whack job.
Wait a minute. Not only was the building inflated for $80 million, the guy loses $3 million, and she actually has been using the building for her personal events. This is who is prosecuting Trump. Seems like what she does is worse than Trump, because everybody who dealt with Trump say they got paid.
for any of its members or directors. Now, Doyle's lawyer, remember this name, Tim Parlatore. Remember him? That's a Trump lawyer, former Trump lawyer, alleges that James' enthusiastic involvement in the Doyle case may be driven by connections with the defendants. Very curious. Now, what is that? And he points out there are uncanny similarities between Doyle's predicament and the notorious case that was brought against Trump. Apparently, Trump inflated the values of his property, right, to get a better mortgage. Now, although her office is now taking the polar opposite position of that. So the lawsuit says that Doyle was given, I guess, from Cahill and backed by James at some point, fraudulently inflated valuations of the townhouse. Oh my goodness, saying that its market value is over 80 million. Cahill and the society's current president general, James, made representations to Doyle that the building had, quote, air rights and they could build up, right, which is important in New York. But in reality, nope, there are no air rights. Hey, Trump never promised that or said anything like that to the banks. The actual value is not actually 80 million. It's closer to 20 million. So they made a gross overvaluation of the townhouse, and that induced Doyle to make the $3 million loan. He's like, I'll give you a $3 million loan on 80, but not on 20. So Tish said, remember, no one's above the law. And she posts her stupid ex posts all over the place because she's got nothing, else that she actually does other than just media, which should include Tish.
Wow. Are y'all following this? She is caught up in a scandal and fraud and property fraud way worse than what she's accusing Trump of. She inflated it by 60 million, got a $3 million loan that he lost, and then she was still using the building for personal events. You Democrats, man, say it ain't so. Say you're not this sloppy. Oh, somebody's making this up? Is this racism? What's going on with what's going on? Because this is worse than what you accuse Trump of.
James, who actively aided and abetted in the art of the steal. Now, this organization fraudulently inflated the value of their building to induce my client to giving them a mortgage, which Tish James is now trying to help these fraudsters avoiding having to repay. The same theory, the theory of fraud that Tishy accused the Trump organization of engaging in, is identical to the fraud that she's aiding and abetting here. Now, James has come down on the side of the society against its lender, Doyle. That's an illegal mortgage. And yet, in her signature case of People versus Trump, she took the opposite position, holding that where an organization inflates the value of a property to obtain a loan, that's fraud, even where the lender was aware of the actual value and was paid in full. Shouldn't Tish be fighting for Doyle? Didn't he get screwed out of this because these fraudsters in the Irish society or whatever, this Cahill family, they screwed him, man. They took $3 million out of him, and Tish is backing him up. Of course, Parlatore points out that she went after Trump, punished him with a $355 million fine plus interest, like 450. Parlatore points out, Trump's former lawyer, that the society inflated the value of its property to obtain a loan, just like Trump was accused of doing. But the difference here is that Doyle could not conduct the sort of sophisticated due diligence that Deutsche Bank did. Therefore, unlike Trump's lenders, Doyle didn't know the true value of the townhouse because he's not a bank. And Tish just ripped him off. So somebody did lose money in that case. Deutsche Bank didn't lose any money. They loved Donald Trump. They called him a whale client. And even more important difference is that Trump paid back every penny that he owed, but the society never paid back Doyle, and Tish is covering them up. So as Miranda Devine writes in this great article, it says, as the old Irish proverb says, forgetting a debt doesn't mean it's paid. So that's Tish, right? Now, she, of course, is as corrupt as the other prosecutors who are prosecuting Trump, which is why she was selected for the job. And obviously, it is a hypocrisy, and we'll see if this lawsuit gains any momentum. So that's Miranda Devine. Now, they are salivating over taking Trump's property. Absolutely salivating. This is Michael Steele for who 2 seconds was the RNC chair, something like that. I don't know, incompetent, obviously. But that's why he's on MSNBC. And listen to how excited they are that Trump may not post this bond. And maybe by decision, right? He might just say, you want $500 million? Why don't you come and take it? Just go do it. Let's see what happens. Right? Call their bluff. Let's see where it goes. But watch how excited these people are at their communist friends going and absconding property from people who've actually earned it and built things in society and in this world, unlike them.
Scenario New York Attorney General Tish James saw coming, and she has been absolutely clear on what she's prepared to do if and when Trump comes up empty.
What are you going to do? If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets. We are prepared to make sure that the judgment is paid to New Yorkers. And yes, I look at 40 Wall Street each and every day. Each and every day.
I look at 40 Wall Street every day. Boom.
Nicely done there. Michael Steele. Boom. Okay. So you're cool, Michael Steele, with government prosecutors seizing other people's properties from the result of political prosecutions in kangaroo courts with Engoron? All right. That's what they're up to over there at MSNBC. Now, Trump is saying, some people are rumoring, saying, go ahead and take it. Let's see what you can do about this. We're fine with that. Here's one over from Jennifer Gould saying that they're hearing some rumors on this, that Trump may not actually pay the bond. She wrote the following, says, as Trump faces a deadline on Monday in the civil fraud case against him in New York, insiders say he may be considering a little discussed option, which is doing nothing, which I like, right? I'm not a real estate connoisseur or anything, but make them come take a building and see what they do with it. And watch what that does for Trump's polls. Have them go and just put a lock on the door at the front of Trump Tower and see what that does for everybody in the building. See how this works for everybody and watch what happens. Property rights, I think everybody can relate to. And when the government, 454 million, people have a hard time, reconciling what that is. But when the government just comes and says, that's our building now, that's a different feel. That's a different vibe to it, isn't it? So we're going to see if they do it or not, but I kind of like it. Now, if they can't, this might be an impossibility, but we're going to read Trump's appeal. But he says the ex-president reportedly has been struggling to raise the cash for the bond, either from banks or wealthy friends. And his lawyers claim on Monday that it was a, quote, practical impossibility. And you'll hear a bunch of people who, don't really know much screaming that, I thought he was a billionaire. Why doesn't he have just $1 billion liquid? You go, are you guys crazy? Do you know anything? Like, Trump's got $1 billion sitting in gold bullion in his swimming pool, and he can just, convert that to US dollars and then give it to Tish. It's wild. So anyways, the point is, it's an insane bond. We'll see if he can find some sources for it, but as it stands, they're talking about just doing nothing. Some reports have raised speculation that Trump may go nuclear with a Chapter 11 filing to protect his prize real estate across Manhattan, but experts said that bankruptcy would create unwelcome complications for 2024 as the election season comes to a head. There was Tish seated there behind the bar. Remember, she didn't do any actual legal work as far as we could tell. Every day, she wasn't even sitting at the attorney's table. She was sitting back where the public sits. And Alina said that she took her shoes off because she stinks. Her feet needed to breathe. So someone said, Trump's not doing bankruptcy. No, he's been there. He's done that. But a third possibility, which I kind of like it, like, you want to play, baby? Let's play, is to let the deadline pass, leaving it to AG Tish to seize Trump's bank accounts or his buildings, including Trump Tower, from which he declared the 2016 presidential run. That includes his famous and personal penthouse. Now, it's an option that Trump appears to have considered, partly because he believes the chances are good that he could recover the assets on appeal, even if he is forced to take his case to SCOTUS. Now, even if there is a taking, it doesn't mean he can't take it back later, is what one source close to Trump told the Post. But a decision to do nothing also poses a risk, right? Among them is that Tish has the right to sell off the properties and recover the cash penalties. But this is what's going on, right? You've seen this happen in many other countries throughout history. The government starts to seize things, seize buildings, seize property, seize guns, seize gold, seize land, seize your right to put something into your body, seizes your physical freedom, like the 100,000 Japanese. It's never ending. So there's a history of this, but this is a new one, right? Now we're having buildings taken. Now we're having people being put in jail. The communist revolution is here, and it is in full swing. So they are going after the money, and that's all he has a right to get back, not the buildings, says another attorney. Sources friendly with Trump say the ex-president believes he has a strong case. They say, among other considerations, if the decision is not overturned, it will have a chilling effect on people who do business in New York, and there will be severe consequences, someone said. Not an insurrection, but people will stop doing business in New York. No one will take the risk, and now lenders are spooked. The real estate market is already a disaster, with office buildings worth a fraction of what they once were worth. And one source close to Trump says he could raise funds from friends and supporters if he wants to, but he's not doing that at the moment. Currently, he's not asking, as far as I'm aware. So deadline is coming, and we're going to see what happens. I'd love to see what Tish does with a nice, big, beautiful building and see how they wreck that. Unfortunately, that's all they do, is they know how to wreck things, and that's basically, all they're good for. But this is the appeal. Let's see what Trump and his team says. In the appellate division, New York, from Judge Engoron's courtroom, we are taking this up to the next level. appeal. It is Tish James versus Donald Trump, and Trump is filing this on appeal, asking for a stay of the enforcement of the bond, enforcement of the order pending appeal. You see that Alina Abba is on this case, along with Robert and Robert, both in New York. Now, here is where they kick things off, saying, all right, Court of Appeals in New York, you should stay the execution of Engoron's decision and do it now, saying that Tish and her leading argument, which of course right now is that this court lacks authority to waive or reduce bond under any circumstances, is just not legally right. Tish says you can't stop the bond or you can't stay the bond while the appeal is pending. They say that's ridiculous. Clearly you do. Read the rules. The court's inherent authority and a host of other New York cases say you are allowed to stay all proceedings to enforce a judgment. Now, and think about this. There's a concept in the law called procedural due process, right? If you have a right to appeal, but you can't appeal because you have to post $500 million, well, isn't that kind of a violation of your due process rights? Like, shouldn't you have the right to appeal regardless of whether you have the money or not? Right? It's the same argument that they make oftentimes about bail and bond. Like, oh, so you can't get out of custody just because you're poor? And the left makes that argument all the time, but here, apparently they don't care about Trump's rights to appeal. But you get the point. They say, Judge, you can stay this and allow the appeal to go forward without requiring half a bill. So in deciding whether to enter a stay, the court may consider any relevant factor. And here, Trump's ongoing diligent efforts have proven that a bond in the judgment's full amount is, quote, a practical impossibility. How do we know that? We have an affidavit from this guy called Gary. They say, we've called around. We've talked to everybody. These diligent efforts have included approaching 30 surety companies through 4 separate brokers. We have an affirmation of this guy who also did the work. A bond requirement of this enormous magnitude, effectively requiring cash reserves of cash of $1 billion, is unprecedented for a private company. Now, even when it comes to publicly traded companies, courts routinely waive or reduce the bond amount. Enforcing an impossible bond requirement as a condition of appeal would be irreparable injury, and it would defeat the court's appellate jurisdiction. The court has jurisdiction not only if you have money, but by contrast, right, all you have to do, Court of Appeals, just waive the bond requirement. It will impose no cognizable harm on Tish. Okay, city's going to be the city. Tish is going to be the city, whether we post this or not. And the case involves no actual victims, no award of restitution, and she's fully protected by Trump's real estate holdings, many of which are in New York. And so that alone warrants a stay. But in addition to that, here's some other reasons why you should stay this.
Are you guys hearing this? If there are no actual victims, that means that is just the state seizing his property and keeping it. That doesn't sound like democracy to me. What does it sound like to you guys?
First of all, there were manifold errors in Engoron's order and his judgment. Guys, not good. Among other errors, they disrespectfully, Engoron disregarded you, appellate court, your previous ruling in this case, that the statute of limitations applies and that the wrong doctrine does not delay or extend these periods. He just said, well, I'm going to allow you to talk about that info from outside the statute of limitations. Remember, they could only go back so far in time, and then the limitations ran. So Trump said, you're cut off. You can't talk about evidence that came before that date. And Engoron said, well, yeah, you can, because it's the totality. I'm not going to consider that as part of the actual case, but it's for the totality. It's for a pattern, in other words. And they said, well, that's ridiculous. They said it's not admissible. Moreover, the Supreme Court, Engoron, the areola, ridiculously valued Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach as being worth between $18 million and $27.6 million. Okay. Understating its value by 50 to 100 times. Supreme Court Engoron imposed a massive disgorgement award in the absence of any evidence that the alleged misrepresentations caused the supposedly ill-gotten proceeds, in violation of the black letter requirement that the disgorged amount must be causally connected to the violation. So the damages, the amount of money, is not connected to anything. They're saying the law says it needs to be. Engoron also double and triple counted damages, and he committed elementary errors in the process because he's so dumb, such as conflating the proceeds of a sale with the profits from that sale. Oh, derp! The proceeds of a sale with the profits of a sale. It's like Engoron has a difficult time with net versus gross. Such basic mistakes, if Engoron had been more intelligent, would have been prevented if this case had been allowed to be adjudicated, in the commercial division, where they know the difference between proceeds and profits. But Engoron wanted the case. So these errors.
I'm letting this play out so you guys can actually see what this guy is showing you about the facts of the case. And you're hearing the law that pertains to this case. He's breaking it down. He's showing you how corrupt it really is, that what they're doing. And he started with showing you what Letitia James did with the guy with the 3 million. It's interesting. So I'm just letting the place you can learn this law.
Established that the disgorgement award is unconstitutional. Okay, it is grossly disproportional. It's in violation of the excessive fines clause in the Constitution of the U.S. and New York, and also it violates basic principles of due process and selective prosecution. And because the judgment is unconstitutionally excessive, the bond requirement of $500 million violates the Eighth Amendment as well. It's irrational and it's punitive and it's not lawful. They confirm that this case has no victims, no damages, no actual financial loss, and none of the defendants and their...
I don't know if he's going to tell you guys or break down the Eighth Amendment, but the Eighth Amendment is for, it forbids cruel and unusual punishment and excessive fines. So think about it. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, which is severe penalties not equal to the crime, and enormous fines not based on what was lost. So if Trump is fined almost $500 million and there are no complaining witnesses, that means that fine is excessive no matter what, because there's no victims. So Letitia James just gets the building. That's not only a violation of the Eighth Amendment. I mean, that's kind of like theft. Well, finish listening to him.
Sophisticated business partners like the banks from Trump testified that they would have changed any transaction in light of these so-called misrepresentations. No one cared. And all of these sophisticated parties, along with their law firms and other service providers, were well aware of the ironclad disclaimers present in all of the financial statements at issue. The $464 million penalty in this case has been aptly described as using a Hellfire missile to annihilate an alleged shoplifter. The editors wrote that in the Wall Street Journal, a Hellfire missile to take out a shoplifter. They also said there was no real financial victim, because there wasn't. They say this is choosing a target and then hunting for something to charge him with, which is literally what Tish did. She ran for office saying, I'm going to make him pay, right? I'm going to be a real pain in his butt, which is an abuse of the law. And so the judgment seeks to destroy a successful business that employs many hardworking New Yorkers, has contributed $300 million in taxes to public coffers just during the dates in question here alone. And we've also made historic contributions to the state and city of New York. And so the court should stay this judgment pending appeal. Right? Just think about that. So that's just going to evaporate. Multiply that times all the millionaires and billionaires in New York. It's just going to evaporate. So they should put the brakes here on Tish's overzealous litigation crusade. And if oral argument is helpful, we'll be here to talk about that as well. Alina Abba and the defense say we respectfully request an opportunity for such a hearing. And we'll jump into the conclusion. Alina Abba and crew wrap this up. They say, so for those reasons, the court should stay the execution of the monetary portion of the judgment. Don't require the posting of an undertaking. Don't make us go get that money. You can maintain all other aspects of the interim stay. And if this court considers denying a stay, we ask for oral arguments at the time of the court's convenience. In the event this court declines to grant a stay, we ask that the court grant permission to appeal to the Court of Appeals and enter a temporary stay to allow us to ask them for a stay while this is all pending. And so that got submitted into the Court of Appeals, appealing Engoron's ruling, signed here by Abba and Madeo and Robert for Donald Trump. So this is the appeal, and it's asking for a stay, of course, on the enforcement of that bond, and we'll see what the Court of Appeals says about that and whether there is a ruling in the days ahead. But Kevin O'Leary was talking about this. Of course, he's a developer there in New York, and he had a lot to say. He says, this is such a huge problem. He's very upset about it, and you can see it in his face.
Now, you take, an issue with this, of course, more broadly in terms of what it means to be in an American business structure, Kevin. But in terms of the valuation, can you be clear as to why would the properties not be sufficient collateral?
What a great message to send out all around the world. Take a claim where there was no monies lost. There was no fraud here in the context of actually people losing money. Deutsche Bank, who made the loan, was made whole. And let's make a penalty of $500 million against crime, apparently, where no monies were lost. Great message for New York. Great message for America. Bring your capital because we'll protect your property. I think that was a statement that would be much better made sometime in Venezuela. I'm not kidding. That's a scary, scary message. And by the way, there are no such things as
the laws exist to protect the
bonds.
marketplace.
There are no $500 million bonds. Never been done before. Never. This law has never been applied. Forget about Trump. Nothing to do with Trump. Everything to do about America and the New York brand. I love this state. My children live here. A horrible message to everybody around the world watching this. Absolutely horrific.
Well,
This
wait,
case
Kevin,
goes
Kevin,
way
but
past
hold on a
Trump.
second. Kevin,
Trump
what
will
would
be
be
gone one day. This
hold on a
attorney
second.
general will be gone one day. And this
I
is
have
what
a
you want to
wonderful
tell
voice,
people
and
around
it
the
won't
world.
be talked
This
over.
is how
Oh,
we
Kevin
treat money
O'Leary,
in America.
I would like to
This
hear what you have
is
to say,
not
but
America.
what are you doing?
Not America.
It's not
Not
America, but it is the
It is not America. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, is right about that. But if they're going to be, eliminating everything else, like your right to choose what you put into your body, or else you get fired or eliminated from, certain functions in society, if they can take away your free speech rights by having the FBI just come in and send messages to social media companies to, delete you, get rid of you, why not take your property away as well? They just take your property. It's like any crime, right? They can
All right, I'm gonna end there. And then he's talking about a lot of the things we've been talking about on this channel as far as the First Amendment, Second Amendment, migration. But man, this is interesting because the closer it gets to election time, the more is being revealed. Tell me what you think about what Letitia James did and what he told you about the law. You know what I mean? This is a strange development for a Thursday. So, that's it for today. Santa to you out of Detroit. Salute to all patriots. Keep your head on the swivel. Peace.